is going to really talk a lot about how to embed that SEL instruction into and with academic instruction. I think that's something a lot of people struggle with, which is like, oh, I have to teach all these standards, I have to teach all this content, I can't really teach about emotions or anything SEL, and there is a way to bridge those two things, and that I think is going to be really, really valuable, because we all know with this situation with COVID-19 and not really knowing what's going to happen with schools going forward, we want to make sure that we're able to address all the needs of our students, and I think people are going to be really excited about what they're going to see today. So no pressure, Dorina, no pressure.
None whatsoever. It's only the beauty of it is that this is why I love Saddleback. It's just completely chill, and you go with the flow. You do your things. I'm checking to make sure people can see this. Are we good? Yep. So I'm going to do my little thing, because we're going to do old school versus new school, and we're going to put this all together. And like you said, there's so many buzzwords out there, and we got to do this, and we have to do this, and equity is sexy, and this is sexy, and I can't stand it. It's almost like you would do that in fashion, that they're fashion forward. That's not what this is. You have to live equity. You have to believe in equity. You have to believe in embedding social emotional learning. And that starts with you and your own emotional intelligence, which we did a webinar for. So you got to check that one too. But this one is about understanding oneself and then embedding it within unbelievable ideas with emotion and all different things. I'm super excited. As you can tell, I'm like a kid.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait. We have more and more people jumping on as we speak. Looks like we have around 230. Oh, see, as soon as I said that, 10 more people jumped on. So people are still signing on. We'll get started in about 1 more minute. For those of you who are just joining us, these are the Twitter handles you want to use as you are tweeting about us today and telling everybody about this great learning opportunity. And one more time, for those of you who are just joining, the control bar is where you're going to find your handouts, and it's also where you're going to be able to respond to any questions. There's no chat feature on this prompt, so if you want to communicate with us in any way, you're always going to use that little question area for that. So it is just about 3 o'clock Eastern time. Let me begin introductions. Today, as you know, we're going to be talking about SEL stories and writing. We want to make sure that we have a means for embedding social and emotional learning with content when the new school year comes about. So this is a good time as we're wrapping up the school year to start maybe thinking ahead a little bit before we hit the pause button and have our summer vacations. And joining us today is the wonderful Miss Dorito, Miss Dorito, Miss Dorina Dorito. I can see why people call you Dorito. Okay. So just for those of you who don't know who Dorina is, she is known as the lab coat teacher and Miss Dorito, of course, by her students from around the globe. With her unique teaching style, Dorina has spent the past 22 years empowering all students of diverse backgrounds at the K-12, college, and adult learner level. A nationally recognized Educator of the Year and Florida Teacher of the Year, Dorina takes her ELL classroom experiences, collaborative teacher workshops, and doctoral research on transformative emotional intelligence and travels the globe as a teacher on loan, inspiring, motivating, and empowering teachers, future educators, and of course, our fabulous students. Welcome back, Dorina. I can't wait for you to get started on this. Let me go ahead and give you the power.
I have the power. I'm dating myself on that one.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about. So I guess.
Good times. Okay, show my screen. How are we doing on this? Show my screen, and let's go up and see the PowerPoint. Let me try to get out of talking to you here so I can do that and see if you can see the PowerPoint. Let's get this started, and tell me if you see what you need to see.
Okay, I see your slides. We just need to go into presentation mode on your slides. And then and I'll turn off my camera in just a minute once I see that your slides are playing.
Do you see the slides going?
You're not in presentation mode yet.
Okay,
I can, yeah.
So
I see the slides, but you need.
So how we doing? Show screen, we all right?
I see your screen.
Okay.
Now you need to play your PowerPoint there. I see your small slides. Yep.
Let me go and see. People can see your screen. So I got that.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see if I can go under here. I'm trying to figure out my, to get this smaller because I'm trying to get out of the picture of myself. I really don't want to see myself and it won't let me out of it. I can't even make it smaller. My apologies. This never happened before. Let's get into this again. And let's go into the larger part. My apologies for everybody. I'm trying to figure out why this is happening. Let's make this smaller and this out of the way. And not sure why it's not playing. Let me get out of everything else and let's do it. How about this? Let's make this larger. Okay, I don't know what's happening, guys. Let's see. I'm trying to get out of not seeing myself. So let's do view presenter. That's me. Let me get out of there. Always in front and don't know what happened.
Here, let's do this.
Trying to get myself out of that one and let's put me to here. Let's see if you can see it now. How about this? Ready? I'm going to put it in presenter mode and show my screen. Everybody there, do you see it?
I can see your slides. Yes. There you go. You got it.
We did it.
We got it. Thanks for hanging in there, everybody. All right, my camera's going off and my microphone is going off and we're going to get rolling. All right, Dorina, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your grace. What a beautiful word that is, and definitely my word during this pandemic, your grace and your patience for that. We all know technology and what has happened when we're in the classroom, brick and mortar, and also what happens in virtual classrooms. So what I'd like to do is talk about this and honor your time and definitely your questions as well. This is an ongoing conversation. I am super excited about this, and I really am overly excited. I was on my French today, so I hope these images will give you happiness and peace as they do for myself. Even these bugs that I have that look like Mrs. Roper from Three's Company, youngins, you want to Google that one. But I do invite you here when we have the ability to. So everyone listening, please come to my French once this pandemic is clear. And I would love your company so we can talk emotional intelligence and social emotional learning for our children during this time. So we will always go through norms, which I got from learningforward.org, the idea of AEIOU, because as an ELL teacher, I also wanted to do it in different colors and underline, because when I share the readout, students who would have underlined, they speak, and students who have the green, they would speak. So I just want to model ideas that I also do in my classroom. Take your time to look at the AEIOU norms for yourself right now for the next 10 seconds. All right. Perfect. I'm so excited. All right. We did this one time before, but I also think it's an embedded version of what we should do with our kids at all times. We know this can get difficult sometimes because we do have the kiddos that really understand and want to talk about their emotions a lot. And then I was guilty of this in 8th grade. As a teacher, my wonderful student Shaneska told me once she graduated high school that my class was her favorite, but one of the reasons was my attention span would go off too much about emotion, and the kids would do it on purpose to deviate from the actual content, because I was I believe so much in emotional intellect over content intellect. And she apologized and said, you were an easy target. So one thing I do want you to understand from my own experience is that talking about emotions is important, but we have to make sure that we know how to balance it along with content in. So we have the content intellect and emotional intellect coming together, and that's what this is about. In the question box, I would like you to answer this question. I just really would like to know genuinely, and as we should with all of our kids, the first 10, 15 seconds. Are you okay? How are you? Not just, hey, how you doing? Is everything good? Good to see you. All right, let's move on to the next slide, all right? That's not it. I want to know, how are you? In a few words or statements or sentence or just a word itself describing, put it in the question box. And maybe Liz, you can come in and tell me what people are saying.
All right, I sure will. Waiting for some of those responses to load. Here they come. Excited and worried, tired and worried, tired. I hear that one.
Me too.
Fabulous. Somebody's fabulous. Wonderful. Love it. Okay. Some of us are just okay.
Mm-hmm.
Doing okay. Doing okay, super busy, overwhelmed, frazzled, but good. It's been hard, especially these last few weeks. Uncertain, meh, hanging in there. Struggling, doing well, overwhelmed, fantastic. So there's a range. I see a lot of overwhelmed and tired and stressed. And then, of course, we have a few, I'd say every fourth or fifth response is, I'm great.
That's
So,
great. That's great. And that's what we want. We want the honest answers, and we should embrace those who are great, and we should embrace the greatness, and then we should physically embrace and virtual hug the ones who are overwhelmed and tired. And for myself, I'm exhausted. I was super hyped on caffeine yesterday when I was talking to Liz and everyone in Saddleback, and I felt so bad. I was like, whoop, 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 whoop. And then I just crashed and became so tired. And I said, I'm going to put on some fun earrings. I'm going to do my thing. And we are just going to make this happen, because this is really going to help you. So let's get ourselves started. Whether you're happy, tired, overwhelmed, I'm going to get you motivated and happy and feel good. I got my messy bun, so let's have some fun, and got my double chin, so let's dive right in, shall we? Let's do this. This is what we're doing for our content and language objective. Again, I'm modeling this. I would love for other teachers, especially content area teachers, to use colors, especially if we go into virtual or hybrid learning. Take a look at the left side and the right side. Look how wonderful and colorful it is for the students who might be struggling to see what's going on, or just having that bad day because their emotions are a little overwhelmed or tired. So everything that is a verb that is very important is in the highlighted yellow, and the other things of the gist is in red. And I would love the kids to just say, okay, well, learn social emotional learning. How assists this uncertain time? They didn't have to read the whole thing. They got the gist. And if you can just observe the left and the right, look at the difference. The difference color can make, and consistency of the use of color for our English language learners and struggling readers. So I just wanted to give you an idea of that, and I hope as I was explaining that, you were looking at what the content and language objectives are. Give yourself 10 more seconds just to see what the heck we're going to do today. Oh my gosh, this is a lemonade. It is not a margarita, although the color is quite the resemblance. I promise. It's homemade lemonade.
Dorina. Sure, Dorina. I'm just kidding. All right. I'm muting myself. I'll behave.
This is what it's all about, friends. All right, let's get started. So, social emotional learning, SEL. Everybody talks about it, everybody hears it, everybody sees it, but do they really know what it is? So what is SEL? Is it just being kind? Is it just embedding kindness and empathy and compassion? Well, actually, there's competencies that have in the SEL world. Now, I got this information from CASEL, C-A-S-E-L, or casel.org. That's my mecca. That's where I love to go. There are many other places. The Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence. Mark Brackett is a genius. He does beautiful work with his ruler concepts, but they all match with the same 5 competencies. So wherever you go in the references at the end of this PowerPoint, you will be able to see various ways in which you can learn about SEL, but it always comes down to this definition, and it comes down to this information. So I'm just not going to read it to you, but I want you to read it for yourself, that you understand what it is, okay? And you're going to see an analysis, a contrastive analysis, or a similarity along with contrastive analysis of emotional intelligence and transformative emotional intelligence for teachers. This is why SEL is good for teacher and student. So this is basically what we are going to talk about. It's not just being kind. It's not just about compassion. It's about embedding lessons of self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationship skills, and social awareness within schools, classrooms, and communities. It's transformative social emotional learning, if you will, that it just doesn't happen within your classroom. An entire culture is created within your schools, your districts, and your communities. That is the goal of SEL, to bring forth the empathy, compassion, and kindness. And a lot of people don't know this, but in your information at the end with ksel.org, they have a PowerPoint that I put in the references for you that you can take and you can edit and do what you wish to make the case for SEL in your schools, and to work with your administration who makes the funding and does the funding. And this might be something that would be wonderful for you. That's another reason I wanted to show you this. Here is the big breakdown of the social and emotional learning competencies. This is what we're going to look at, but I really want you to see that we're going to talk about self-awareness first. So that bottom right is what we're going to talk about mostly. So take a look at what that bottom right is, but also skim all of the 5 SEL competencies that we would love to see district-wide in all of our schools. But right now we'll just focus on our hearts, our heads, our kids, and our classrooms. So take a look at self-awareness and breeze through this while I have a sip of my lemonade. I promise you, it's lemonade. I'm looking at this stuff myself going, ugh, I don't know if I feel comfortable embedding this in lessons when I myself have to work on my own self-confidence or self-efficacy, right? I'm tired. I am so webinared out. I'm tired. Self-efficacy, how do I feel? Or recognizing what my strengths are. Webinars are my strength, and I get so passionate and I love it, and you fuel me, everyone watching, and I love every minute of it. But woo, it can get tiresome and overwhelming, but we can still be fantastic and happy. Those emotions and that dichotomy is something we have to rein in, and we have to pull in and say, how do we embed all this in our lessons as well, while still doing standards-based rigorous stuff? So that's where I want to show you on this part. We did see this slide if you've seen me work with Saddleback before, but I really think it's quite important that it's imperative that we know our own EI. So take a look at those things down at the bottom, those little bullet points there, as I discuss the importance of the hardwiring. We have a biological predisposition for us to be coming out. We're our baby, we're born, I do that really well, right? And we're born with sadness, joy, disgust, anger, surprise, and fear. You have a biological predisposition for all that to happen. You're born, it's in the baby's head, right? You're the baby, your head, you know this. What is taught and must be taught by family, community, environment, meaning, okay, that of course it takes a village, or Kasirian and Gera, which means how are the children? And we should answer the children are well, because when all children are well, a community is well. So when we are teaching our children the things on the side, not the one that's the dark gray, but on the side, all of that is what needs to happen in our lessons. All of that is what children need to learn and experience. And there are kids coming to this United States from various countries with trauma, with some issues, or with never learning the true optimism and compassion because of what they've been through. So we're not talking little pre-K. This is geared towards 6 through 12, and our 6 through 12ers need to be taught this as well. So this is my excitement. In my research, I've been looking for social emotional learning books for middle to high school, novels and everything. You can take a novel and you can make it social emotional. For example, one of my all-time favorite books, and please contact me if you want any help with this, that I believe should be taught K through 12 in various forms, is The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. And right now with virtual learning, it's available to you online on YouTube by Shel Silverstein himself in a 1976 version, where he reads it to everybody. And it is a beautiful story, but it really can talk about SEL and get into those 5 competencies, especially when we're talking about self-awareness. So that is an idea. But when I researched and started to look at things for various high school, SEL specifically for high school, it kind of wasn't there. There are novels and we can use our expertise to try to embed it, but really nothing that helps, and especially at levels for English language learners. and struggling readers. I said, my gosh. So all of a sudden I Googled it again and up comes Saddleback. Disclaimer, I do not work for Saddleback. I just love the company and I love the products. How much so? I bought them, I bought them, I bought them, I bought them all just to share this with you. So, and to actually pitch it to districts, because that's what I do. I look at different curricula and I look and make curriculum and I recommend things so that I can see equitable education in my walkthroughs of different districts that I serve around the country. And I freaking fell in love with this. This is not just for SEL Saddleback books. There's many other references within this PowerPoint, so that I want you to know this is not, I'm just talking about these books because that's what I see, but there are other references that we're going to get to as well. To give an example of what quality SEL should be is exactly what you're seeing on your screen here. See the 5 competencies and more? Then there's books that coincide with it. So if you look at the top left, you can see with self-awareness, here's a book on self-awareness that's freaking brilliant, discussing, extremely culturally responsive and relevant, with so many images of children that are represented well here. And then you have this, and this is the nonfiction book. Then after, we got a fiction story that the students connect with on the basis of their own experiences of self-awareness. So we are going to focus on self-awareness today, but this is an example of how you could put this all together. And I promise you, you just don't need Saddleback books. I'm going to teach you different ways in which you can do it, okay? Here we go. Here are some examples. These books, and again, you're getting this PowerPoint, so you could look. I am obsessed with these books, and these are wonderful references for the top, what you can see that says Ghost, Does My Head Look Big in This, and Dear Martin. Fantastic, powerful SEL novels for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. On the bottom, The Reluctant Fundamentalist, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Great, great stories, and all of that you could look at and see their summaries and see, oh my gosh, she's right. It's all about SEL under the 5 competencies that you just learned about. And it's really nice because then there's self-awareness. Kelly Yang's book is phenomenal. And of course, then the Jenny's book is ridiculously good. So I want you to know, again, it's not just because I'm obsessed with this, because I do find this very good, especially people looking for curriculum for SEL that you can embed in your ELD classes, your ELA classes, while they're still standards based, and teach reading, writing, listening, and speaking without just grabbing a standard and having to pick and find. We're overwhelmed, we're tired, we're exhausted. We might be fantastic, but we gotta go look at stuff again. This stuff is all right there for you. That's why I wanted to show you that one as well. So this is an example. This is what was on my kitchen table to show you the different aspects of what you would see. And you can see, you can look in within yourself. And my recommendation would be, these are all the books of nonfiction and fiction that you would do the first year. You would take August or September until December, before Christmas break, or excuse me, the holiday break, or the break, and you would actually see all of these and really work on focusing from within and put that all in with the lessons that you're doing in your classes. I love this as a separate ELD class of English language development because it really, you can get into deeper conversation. And then the second half would be looking outside yourself and learning the other wonderful things such as social awareness, relationship management, communicating, kindness, problem solving, and finding help. All of it could be put together, but again, I love the idea of starting from within, just like we do as teachers. So when I'm talking about that, I fell in love with it, and this is what I did. So I tried this out in a district, and I loved model teaching it. So first I introduced, for example, a book like this, or you can introduce one of the books that I recommended, or The Giving Tree. You would introduce a book that's, you can do fiction or nonfiction, but I would first do an article on what possibly self-awareness is. And they would read an article about it or read a book like this. And then there's specific vocabulary that you would use. So I'm going to again use this book as an example. And in the back, there's all this vocabulary. And it's awesome because it's only about 5 or 6, and I love about 7 to 10 words. So I would add a little bit more words with this. We would connect these words with the real world, and I'm going to show you how to do that. Then we go chapter by chapter. And just so you know, in these books, there's 4 chapters each. Okay, 4 chapters each. Now we're going to put this in writing. And if I want a 5-paragraph essay format, well, you don't have to do 5 because kids now, we just want voice. No, our ELL kids need to do 5 paragraphs to understand the structure. And once they do it, they can be free and don't do 5 paragraphs, but they need to think in structure first. Hence the reason for the writing recipe. But if you have all these chapters, imagine they can pick 3 of the 4 chapters and write about it. It's very powerful. Then there's a bunch of guided questions in the actual book. Then you could read, discuss, think, and connect. And then one of the biggest parts of SEL is free journal writing. If there's anything you get out of this webinar, start thinking about free journal writing in heritage language for the students. They just have to write. That's all I want them to do. I don't care if they write, I don't feel like writing 6 times. Eventually 60 times. Eventually, children learn. Young adults, tweens, teens, and adults learn. I have to write. I have to free write. I have the freedom to do it in my heritage language. I'm going to write how I feel. And it's very powerful. And then I'm going to introduce you to something called spider writing. I learned this from something called ilearnamerica.com. Great activities. And then we would introduce the writing recipe. So let's do it, okay? I'm very excited. Traditionally, in a class, I would do an emotion activity. This is very powerful. I learned this from Teachers of the Year and my friend Jessica Solano, who did this beautifully with new teachers. And she actually put all these different cards down, and this is what we did as an activity to understand a very important piece on equity and white privilege. And we did this amazing thing where we put all these pictures and emotions and everything, and people would pick and talk about it. Well, this particular activity is about emotion and culturally responsive. You can see you don't have to use these cards, these 60 emotion cards from Saddleback. You could choose your own cards or ask the students to make their reactions and use them virtually. But when I did it in the classroom, I would have the students just pick a card and they would be attracted to a certain card. They would have to imitate the card and then they would turn the card over, and that would be the actual emotion that was happening with the definition. Then I would have the students team up with one of their soulmates because their feet would match and it would be a soulmate for the week. And that person would either match with the person to discuss each of their pictures and an experience where they felt fear. And this particular person had an experience where they felt excitement. And they would match up and just talk. That's all they would do. Then they would put this back and create their own cards in their own little emotion cards, okay, which we'll get to in a second. Now that it's virtual, it's a little bit different. So this is what I would have done. Here is the cards on the back, and here's the cards in the front. So what you would do on either your choice boards or on an actual PowerPoint, the students would get it and they would be able to manipulate the emotion, the word with the picture. And it would be almost like not a game of memory, and this is not childlike. This is important for them to match up what it is, but then they have to give a personal experience of when they felt discouraged or when they had fear. And they can orally discuss it, they could vlog it, they could write it, they could conference with you, but those vocabulary words are the front loading before they start actually reading these stories. And you could do it with any story to make sure that you have those emotional words ready for those kids. Talk about academic literacy and building vocabulary. So another way in which I ask the students to do this, and this is really powerful as well, and we tried this virtually, is the students then would get their word, and here's the word excitement, and the student would get it and they do something called spider writing. What this is, and I hope that you can see this here, I know it's a little hard, but this was my spider writing, and I'll explain what this looks like. In my spider writing, and I'm sorry if you can't see it all, I'm going old school on you here, is that you take a word and then you have a stream of consciousness about how that word inspired you. So for example, the word excitement inspired me to write the word, well, excitement to me is happy kids. And that stream of consciousness brought me to no kids. So I went from excitement and happy to, I'm happy when I see kids and I'm excited when I see happy children, all the way to no kids because I don't have children, which led me to sad, which led me to conflicted, which also led me to, and it's telling a story where I could write and journal right now just about the fact that the word excitement and happy children led me to a story about myself. And I went, whoa, this is a stronger emotion than I thought. It came out immediately. I got to check myself on this one. And down on the bottom, chocolate made me excited. So because chocolate made me excited, I thought about it in serotonin levels, and serotonin made me think of Thanksgiving turkey dinner, which led to talking about my parents, which made me think about my parents and how I want to buy them a golf cart, which made me think about golf and how I would like to go out and golf, and a story about golf. As you can see, spider writing leads to so much. Now, it's a stream of consciousness, but it's done by little bits and pieces. And then they circle the little branches that they feel they want to journal about or talk about when it coincides with their word. Or maybe it doesn't. They went from excitement to sadness, and they want to write about that. This is very powerful ways in which you can do spider writing virtually. And when they share it, it's wonderful. It's so powerful. Okay. So as I said, this is really a wonderful way for you to see how I fell in love with these books and how we can put that together. And so when you see how we can put emotion vocabulary words all together, books that we wind up reading, we can start writing about what we're feeling and what we read. Okay, so let's just say, for sake of argument, we took this book on self-awareness and we understood the 4 chapters of self-awareness. In this particular book over here, the 4 things are looking inside myself, listening to my own thoughts, choosing how I react, and accepting yourself. Now, the chapters alone could help you with the writing recipe. Now I'm totally excited. But before we go into the writing recipe, I just want in the question box, if anybody just has comments about how they're feeling about embedding things, just things like, okay, I get what you're saying, or this book would be good, or I have an idea. Just put any thoughts, your own stream of consciousness, in the question box right now, and Liz is just going to answer a few.
All right, waiting for some of these responses to load, Dorina. Sometimes it takes a few seconds.
Okay.
So I've got a couple people here who their immediate thoughts are more questions actually about the spider writing exercise and how, yeah, so how does that work exactly with ELLs and limited vocabulary? So someone has some questions about how you, can you elaborate a little bit more on how you, and then still have more coming in, but if you want to speak to those to jump in, and then we can, I can share some more with you.
The best way for me to do this, and of course at the end, please contact me and let's Zoom, let's talk, let's drink lemonade, and let's talk about how we can make spider webbing work for you, because that's my whole point, is to show you I so believe in this for kids. What happens is, even if they're limited, they can still use heritage language. This is a brainstorm for them. And whether they need to actually then work on translating their thoughts, that's okay. But we want students to really deep down and think about how something leads to another. As brand new newcomers, you are a little bit limited, and that's okay. I would encourage heritage language. But of course, look at the scores of our students and see where their academic language is, and see how well they're handling expressing themselves in another language, such as English. And then what you would do is you would ask them to branch off. So you have, again, the picture of the one word, any word that you're choosing or the word that is chosen. Perhaps you just choose one of the 7 words that you would like to discuss, 7 emotional words that are specifically within the book that you're going to read. Perhaps you're doing the giving tree and there is, let's see, selfishness, or perhaps there is kindness, or there is love. And what happens is, from the circle, you just simply draw a line and you write something that makes you think about it. And I would love teachers to try this activity on their own, like I just did, where you actually take the words that you wish you would like to use, choose one, and then make a line and simply think about, what am I thinking about when I think of the word fear? Okay, I'm afraid of getting COVID. I'm afraid it's going to branch off. COVID is stops me from going out. Okay, branch up. I used to go out all the time. I used to have margaritas, not lemonade. And you would do these certain things that would go in that would lead to stories. And all of it connects and it becomes so powerful. I Learn America did it with identity, and it was almost too powerful for me, as far as we wanted to make sure that our students were okay with expressing themselves. In this, it's just connecting to a story of SEL about emotion, and it allows them to say to them, from this one word, all of these emotions come about, and all of this stream of consciousness comes about. So we can definitely get into that further. Please, at the end, I have my email. You can text me, say, Dorina, let's talk spider, the stream of consciousness for spider writing, and I'd be happy to do that. But with the spider writing and with everything else, I do want to get into the writing recipe, because that's a real big, like I said, I am here for you, and I want you to know that. So we are going to be here for you and talking about the writing recipe. Traditionally, in a brick and mortar class, I absolutely, and I promise you, I made 77% learning gains with my English learning students from their heritage English speaking counterparts. So the kids did so well because we did something called the writing recipe, and we used 5x7 index cards. We taped them from the back. We used what it looks like right here. And what it is very simple. And I would teach the kids: black, black, red, yellow, green, black, black, red, yellow, green, black, black.
All right, my fabulous, fabulous, amazing babies. This is.
I'm going to stop that. That's me.
All right, my fabulous, fabulous.
I'm going to stop it right there. That's me talking, because this is the virtual version, and I actually gave them the idea because I spoke. That's why you see that little screen there. And I discussed the black, black, red, yellow, green. And what it is trying to teach them black, black together, because it's intro in the first box, conclusion in the other. They're the same for English language learners. The same. We're just going to reverse it, and you're going to see that. The red is stop and think of your first answer. The yellow is keep on going. And the green is go, 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 go. Save the best for last. Give your best answer in the last one. And this is the writing recipe. And this used to be manipulative, that the kids would fold up and they would put back in their backpacks, and they would practice every day. We would laminate them. We'd put the cheat sheet on the back for these sentence frames, and it would be wonderful. Now that it's virtual, I still do it like this, but they only do it in small cards themselves, and I'll show you how it works, that they do each section specifically, then they put it together, and then they write the final piece. So let me show you what it looks like this. So every kid had a cheat sheet like this, every single one. And this explains exactly what you would do. Now it says rewrite the prompt, but it's really rewrite the question that is being asked of you in that particular place. And you can see there's a lot of transition words. And, well, Mr. Dorito, yeah, everybody does this, right? True, but every kid's going to have the exact same thing then. Well, this is formulaic. Yes. Yes, it is.
All right, so
here it is again. Sorry about that. Let me close it. When you have kids who are learning to write, and you want them to express themselves, and they are unable because they don't have the power yet, you want to give them formulaic. The best way for me to explain this is why it's called the writing recipe. It's very simple. Imagine you're going to the dollar store because you don't know how to make a cake from scratch. And if you did, I'm jealous. Good for you that you learned how to do that. I'm going to go and get a Betty Crock or Duncan Hines, whichever, Pillsbury, I don't care. I'm going to Dollar General right now because I'm not afraid. There's not a lot of people there. So I can put my mask on and get my stuff. Wipe it down. There it is. I read the back. The back of the directions: 3 eggs, quarter cup of oil, put the stuff in the thing, mix it, you put it 375, boom, it comes out. If I do it, if you do it, if Liz does it, if Tim does it, if Joe does it, if Chanel does it, they all do it 98% of the time, with the exception of maybe how big the eggs were, or if their water had more chlorine in it or more fluoride. 98% of the time, that is going to be the exact same thing, no doubt. But once you feel confident in making that cake, what are you going to do? Maybe I'm like, I know how to make a cake out of the box now. I know exactly what I have to do. I think I'm going to add some chocolate chips. Yeah. And I said that with passion, with the New York accent, chocolate chips. And maybe Tim is going to turn around and go, nah, I love raisins and natural things like raisins and nuts and chia seeds. Right? Go, Tim, California guy. And then maybe you have, Liz turning around and going, no, I'm adding rum. There it goes, because that's what Texas does. So you do those things where you have adding the different pieces of your own recipe and it becomes your own. I promise you, when giving something, and don't call it formulaic, it's sentence framing, but in a manner in which students feel comfortable as they're learning to write. I also go very high in academic language, and then the students can get where they need to go. I don't start with simple little frames. Let me show you what I'm talking about when I go over to this side. Sorry about that. I can't get out of this. I don't want to end my show. I want to move it, and it won't let me go. Whoops, sorry about that.
This will be available to you.
Here
Hopefully
we go.
your teachers will be.
Go to the next one. So I tell the students.
Are you excited for intro and conclusion yet?
See, I get very excited about it.
Are you excited for intro and conclusion?
So I wanted to show you that that's what I put on the PowerPoint so the kids do hear me. But over here is exactly what I want them to do. If they read this story right here, they read this story, the whole thing with the chapters, here is my actual thing. This is all virtual now. Write an essay explaining, highlighted, why self-awareness is an important part of learning and growing. Then I give them the checklist. This is not an formative assessment. This is just what my expectation is for them. It's kind of like I got this from doing my doctorate. I'm in 29th grade, and in order for me to pass my proposal for the URR, I have to actually do a checklist to make sure I have everything. I want this for the kids too. I don't assess them on this, not at all. This is just for them. And I also teach them, you don't own me, I own you, because students are intimidated by writing. So I always teach them, you don't own me, I own you. And they slam their hands down and they feel really good about it. So let me show you how this works. Yes, I did all this for them. Absolutely. I started the whole thing for them. I want you to read this. Now, don't forget, let's go back real quick and see what the question is. Why self-awareness is an important part of learning and growing. Now, take a look. There are so many ways students learn and grow. However, there is one particular way that helps students grow and learn from inside their hearts and minds. Now, what do you think I want where it says their hearts and minds? I need an adjective. So I would probably tell them, and I would color code the line to represent blue equals adjective, right? That way is what? That way is, what's the title of the book? Okay. That way is, and I also did a little hint at the bottom, that way is self-awareness. Whether it is the do-doot, or do-do. Self-awareness is important for students to thrive. What do you think is do-do? Missy, it's the 3 reasons. Yeah, but guess what you do when you're reading a chapter book like this? Check it out. Whether it is looking inside, listening to your thoughts, or accepting yourself, self-awareness is important for students to thrive. You have 4 choices. Well, Missy, I can't do 4. I don't speak well. No, you do. You just don't speak well yet because you're not ready. It's okay. We're going to make you ready. So the student does 1 chapter and they do intro, 1 paragraph, and then the conclusion. They're done. You differentiate it based on the student's levels. No, this is so hard for me to fill out. It isn't. I promise you. Brand new 9th grade newcomers at Bay District Schools absolutely were obsessed with this. They didn't want to do it any other way.
All right, my lovey muffins.
See, I talked to them again. So let me move to the next one. So that was the intro. Don't forget, black, red, yellow, green. Right? So what did I say? Black first, because intro and conclusion are almost the same thing. When you look back at the PowerPoint, because I'm giving you this, when you look back, you will be able to see the comparison of the 2, and we can do it very quickly. There is this one, and now if you want to just take a look, looking back, one can see that blank is needed for all the students to thrive. Well, Missy, I don't know. Well, you wrote it. What is it? Self-awareness. Good, kid, put it in. Looking back, one can see that self-awareness is needed for all students to thrive. Whether it is that or choose your same chapters, you're rewriting it. Self-awareness helps students grow and learn from inside. There's another adjective. Change it. Don't do the same one from the intro. Self-awareness is, and then that's the mic drop. That's the one thing I want the kids to do themselves. Give me something. If they go, self-awareness is good. Oh, I'm going to accept it for my little newbie babies, no doubt. But then I'm going to do my RIP word, and I'm going to make a list of the rest in peace words that they're not allowed to use, and good is one of them. Maybe they want to take one of these words, like self-awareness is excitement to the soul, and they're using the words that they've already learned. So this is the intro and conclusion. They're done. Now you're going to go into your first one.
All right.
See, I start talking again for virtual. Well, Ms. Dorito, this is really, really hard for my newcomers. You're the expert. If you take this particular part that's very complex and rigorous, which I definitely expect, one of my favorite teachers told me, you keep a bar, you raise the bar high. Even if they don't reach it, they're going to try harder when it's just the teach plus one. So I start with initially, and you could say first, next, or last, but I'm always going to give them the academic language first. Initially, comma, and then you say what. What is important to students' self-awareness? They fill it in based on the chapter that they read. And they can say, here it is. Initially, listening to your thoughts is important for student self-awareness. That is to say, you must have that is to say. And this is you don't have to have it for our newcomers. You can simply just the real new babies. You can just say initially, listening to your thoughts is important to student self-awareness, right? For example, according to chapter 1, but that is to say is when students have the ability to rethink about their answer, not just put the answer for compliance. They have to think about it in other English. So initially, and you put the answer, right? We talked about it.
Okay, here we are in
Sorry, I'm talking about it again, and I don't know where it is. Here it is. Okay, there it goes. So when you say that,
explanation.
my apologies. I'll put my sound down. You have that is to say, and that is to say means, and I always say this to the kids, and especially virtually, I go, wait a minute, Desharis, what do you mean that, what's the chapter that they did? Let's just say it's the second chapter. Initially, listening to your thoughts is important to student self-awareness. What do you mean, Desharis? And Desharis goes, that is to say, and then he has to say, listening to your thoughts in another way. That is so difficult, but so rigorous and so academic literacy filled, it's not even funny. And then the kids talk about, for example, according to chapter 1 of the book, those are fillers, but the kid has to go back and has to look at it, but then he has to redo it again and say what this means is, this demonstrates. Now that's high. You could take this in an editable version and make it to the version of your own child, your own student, based on their linguistic level. Initially, blank is important for students. For example, in chapter 1, they say, this is the key to learning, growing and learning for kids. 3 sentences, I'm done. You differentiate it, but I'm never going to keep it simple. I'm always going to keep it much more complex and bring it down from there. Let's look at the next chapter just for the interest of time. Okay, so here's your additionally, and you can see the exact same thing. You're saying chapter 3 of self-awareness. It says, in some of them you have to quote, in others you have to summarize. But as you can see, you're beginning to see the pattern. And that's what we want for our kids. Well, how is this SEL? How do the kids even feel it? Because they're learning what self-awareness is. They're learning this. Once they learn it and know how to write it, they already were discussing their own emotions using the cards, but now they've actually going to put, once they learn the nonfiction understanding of self-awareness through their own writing and their own spider journaling and their own writing or vlogging or how they wish to express their emotions, they're going to read a nonfiction book that's actually they're going to have to connect and write with and discuss or create their own story. So here's the third one, and just for the interest of time.
All right.
Sorry, I'm talking to my kids again. So you see some big academic words like to reiterate, furthermore, and most significantly. You don't have to use those academic words. I'm choosing to because I honestly, friends, saw even students with interrupted education. I saw children wanting to use those words, and kids who didn't, we made sure that we had next to the words furthermore and most significantly, they put third, finally. That was fine. They were both perfect at the level of the student. But if I knew that student's academic literacy level and they wanted to use finally, I pushed them. I pushed them higher because those kids then love to start using academic vocabulary once they see it. And what happens is you give them 2 of these writing recipes. By the 3rd time, the kids go, Ms. Dorito, can I change it up a little? Because I don't. And puedo hablar español conmigo? They would say it in Spanish. And Missy, can I change it a little bit? Yes, change it, buddy. Do what you want to do. And this gives them a sense of structure, a feeling like they know what's going on. And it is so powerful for them. So this is important that I would then tell them after they do that writing and they sit on it a little bit, we discuss the vocabulary, we reflect, we do a little more spider writing, we talk about our emotions, we talk about what's inside using some guided rating questions, some formative assessment by conferencing with the kids on how they were feeling about what they learned in the book. Then they would retell this story, which is a standard. And they would simply retell it. I'm not going to ask them to do it in an actual story writing recipe. They would first do it like this. And I got this from Thinking Maps on Pinterest. I love this because this is a difference between a tree map and a flow map of Thinking Maps. And when you put them together, you can see almost the writing recipe where there is the introduction, there's 3 reasons, and then there's ideas underneath, and then the conclusion. I'm happy when kids fill this out. So here's where if a kid doesn't want to do the writing recipe of the 5 paragraphs, but they do this, I'm happy. If they do this with pictures, I'm happy. If they do this with first language, I'm happy. This is another differentiated way to do the writing recipe. Once they give the actual retelling of the story, so I know they know the story, that's when they actually retell it and they do it together. Now, when you look back at this PowerPoint and you can put side by side or just look, you're going to see it's the exact same thing. Instead of there are so many ways that help students learn and grow, I put there are so many stories. However, there's one particular way, one particular story that helps students grow and learn from inside their adjective, hearts and minds. That book is Losing Control by Gail Herman. Whether it is and then the 3 reasons why this book was important to that child. The 3 reasons that helped that child grow because they connected with it, which is another SEL class for another time if you're interested, because we can continue with it and tell how you can connect with the stories that you're reading and say, in my life, in comparison with Nate in Losing Control by Gail Herman, I had a similar story on the soccer field in Syria, right? And you have these beautiful stories that the children told because you gave them a word that possibly after reading this and doing the spider writing could help them retell the story with emotion and voice. Oh, this is a huge,
All right, my lovey
full,
puppies.
oh, my lovey babies. This is a full day. Now, this is the conclusion again to let you know, but I just wanted you to see.
All right.
Sorry. Again, you could just do this as your own little test. Now, in the interest of time, we were going to do an activity, but I only have 47 minutes and we're going to wrap up pretty soon. We would have actually asked you it. And in my professional development in this that I do in districts or virtually, we actually take the time and the teachers break into the Zoom rooms and they have to redo the writing recipe to help the students with sentence framing based on retelling a story and connecting with it. It's really a powerful piece and the kids love it. Now, I'm sure you need a break and I need a break. I would love, before we wrap up what we're going to do, very quickly in the question box, your comments about what you have learned so far and if anything has inspired you to go, huh, let me think about this. I would love to hear your thoughts as Liz reads them.
Okay, as Dorina said, go ahead and put your thoughts and comments in the question area, and I'll go ahead and share those with her. Yes, please give us another conference to continue this subject. Yeah. There have been, oh, wait, here comes some more. Sometimes there's a delay between when people type and they actually pop up. Love the coloring and underlining of the objectives. Love all of this. Love your energy. You're making it fun.
They hate me for it because I'm the Tasmanian devil in a double espresso. But you know what? They're like, Missy, how did this class go by so fast? And virtually, woo, because I record a lot too. So there's no excuse. And then I conference. So I record my lessons, and then they let me know that they watched the lesson by separately conferencing with the kids. And I conference with 12, 13 kids a day to ensure that I know, so we can personalize these experiences as we embed SEL into it. It's all about learning about the different aspects like these here. Oh, it's so cute. Change plans, finding purpose. And then they read something called change plans. Oh, I started crying after this one, more than the giving tree. It's crazy. Any others, Liz?
Yes, Nicole says, I have learned not to be afraid to give more structure. It will help them learn how to do it on their own. I love this. I followed you on Twitter.
Oh my gosh, that's it. A lot of people say, oh, you're just sentence framing. You're doing this. Now, if you're a heritage English speaker and you're a teacher doing a block of sentence frames, yes, absolutely. I agree. If you're a struggling writer, no, I think you should do it too. But the expectation that this should be coming for all children who are heritage English speakers, no, I want to challenge them even further. I would do some sentence framing, but not as intense as this. When I tell you it works, it works. I wouldn't be doing this for 10 years. I believe in it so much. But the other point of the writing recipe for English language learners is that they don't want to copy it anymore. Their desire to branch off is so strong. It's so powerful. And don't let anybody else tell you any different, because this structure helps students. Now, you know your own kids, so you could switch it up a little bit, but go big. Go big. I have 11th graders going, initially, furthermore, Miss Dorito, and these kids never said that 2 weeks ago, because they also did the contrastive analysis of the two, and they did the cognates. So inicialmente for the Spanish speakers, inicialment for my Haitian speakers. So it was Haitian Creole speakers. It was beautiful. So yes, so I just want to wrap up while we're going to continue more questions. One of the reasons is because I love this word more than anything, and it is one of my social emotional learning words, is the power of the word believe. Now, the word itself, if you're going through something where you're tired, believe you need some rest. Believe that you need to take care of yourself. If you're doing fantastic and you're great, believe that that emotion is a gift, and you should feel so happy that you're good and you're okay. Believe that you're overwhelmed. That's telling your soul, I need to step back and maybe have some lemonade. You need to do what you need to do for you. And you always must believe, as English teachers and teachers of our children, who are just going to be so empowered by you because you believe. You be the educators who lead to inspire and empower via empathy. And when you do that, social emotional learning happens. Learn about the 5 competencies of SEL. Learn about your own emotional intelligence. Join me on #believe_cafe. There's 32 of those. I can give you that, and you can learn about that. Learn the importance of really these high-low books, man. If you have a curriculum that you have to get, I would say jump on that. But like I said, I don't work for Saddleback, but I'm telling you right now, it is so easy for me to just tell the teacher these books and do a lesson like this. We do a video, we conference, they try it with the kids go crazy. And happy teacher, happy students, happy learning. And I hope you understand that. Connect with me anytime, and we'll open up for some questions if we have some time. Liz?
We definitely have some time. Let me go ahead and grab screen control back from you. Here I am. This always takes so much concentration. Okay, because of course, before we go into Q&A, we always like to let people know what is coming up on Saddleback webinars. And if you join us week after week, you're probably noticing, hey, this slide looks a little bit different. That's because we know that we're coming to the end of the school year and you're probably going to need a little bit of a pause. But don't worry, we're not stopping our webinars. There's no webinar next week. We're going to have a pause, but we are working on a summer webinar series right now. So starting back up again in mid-June and hopefully going throughout the summer, we will be returning with more webinars, and you can look forward to webinars around things such as family engagement, using creativity over the summer as a means of self-care to kind of rejuvenate for the upcoming school year. Of course, tips and strategies, talking to teachers about what worked for them. We have a lot of ideas in the pipeline, and we're really excited about our summer webinar. So definitely keep an eye on that inbox and on our website as well, so that way you can register for these webinars when they are officially on the calendar. And with that, we definitely have some more questions for you, Dorina. So here's one that I thought was pretty interesting. Scaffolding writing is important to start the writing process. Do you ever have to define some of the words or transitional phrases for the students for them to be able to do this?
Yes, absolutely. And in a brick and mortar classroom, I have something called Florida students, Florida standards. And because I'm in Florida right now, but you can put, you know, a different way of saying it. But I also do something called academic language and social language. I also have something called content language. I have word walls freaking everywhere because I think there's a misconception that we put all the words everywhere and they have the A, B, C, D, and they drop down and they put the words. It should be content embedded, so that if you have a specific topic like you have for these stories, there's these words that are at the back. Those are the only words that you want for content, right? And it's about the topic. But when you have academic and social word walls next to each other, so let's say, for example, the word initially, I'm going to put first next to initially. So the academic word wall, when it says academic word wall, it's initially. Social, it's first. Now, if you have an all Spanish class or one language, and it's only one language in your class, I don't do cognates in a class if I have 16 kids and 15 of them are Spanish speakers and one is speaking Tagalog. I won't do it because I also believe it's illegal. I think you're in Florida, you can't, but I also believe it's not right. It's not culturally relevant for that student to only see it, because I had half my Haitian kids going mochila for their book bag because I did it my first 3 years of teaching. And I believe that cognates should only be in their own little journals. But yes, if you have that, I would love if you have all single language speakers, let's say Spanish, you would put academic, social, cognate, right? And it would be beautiful. But I would put them everywhere, but I would also teach that in virtual. So when you do have initially, additionally, furthermore, and most significant, I do teach that. When you also see different words that are quite big, such as to reiterate, I put to reiterate here. What's another way of saying to reiterate? To say again, okay? So you put, for example, to exemplify. You put them next to each other. So that is the beauty of teaching it. But then some of the other bigger words should go in the content area, and then you have something called general vocabulary. That stuff I don't focus on. That's up to the child to figure that out. That's that intrinsic motivation that if they see a word they don't know, Missy, what's this mean? It's not in the content vocab. You go look it up yourself, kiddo. And that's where the kids get motivated to learn themselves. I hope that helped.
Thank you. We have another question. Well, we had several that kind of fell under this umbrella of needing some clarification on how it would work virtually. So we had a lot of people comment that they like that you put the audio in the PowerPoint because that's very necessary for the distance learning if you were to do this writing recipe virtually. But this one I thought was pretty good. I have it on my phone here so I wouldn't forget it. When doing work like this in the classroom, students are constantly engaging each other, asking clarifying questions, asking me to check their work. How do we reimagine this for virtual learning so that students feel that they are supported as they work? So that sort of the buzz that happens in a classroom when students are working on something like this in the same space, is there a way to kind of translate that to the virtual space that we figured out, or is the jury still out on that and everybody's just trying to figure it out as they go?
Well, sorry. It depends on how you do and you interact with your kids. I'm a huge WhatsApp person with some of my kids. So I will use WhatsApp and we will all kind of come together and we'll talk on WhatsApp and we'll have discussions. We also have just oral discussions. We don't do visual, and we'll talk, and it'll be a three-way conversation with 3 kids, and I'm moderating. There's other ways in which we can have the conversation that just isn't the virtual face-to-face, but I'm a huge proponent of breaking into the groups if you do use Zoom. Unfortunately, Microsoft Teams, which I love, by the way, doesn't use it. But if you can break into groups, that would really, and learn how to use Google, sorry, not Google, Zoom separate rooms, you can oversee the rooms and jump in and out of every one of them. I did it in a professional development in Iowa, and they had to rework a plagiarism PowerPoint that I didn't feel was very rigorous. So they had to rework one. So they all teamed up and they all had to make a PowerPoint by the end of that particular hour. And I jumped in each and every one of them, and there was accountability. There was a manager in every room to make sure it got done, and it really worked. So there's something to think about if you haven't done the Google Classroom, geez, Dorina, the Zoom breakout rooms. But other ways in which you can do that definitely is the communication with the kids. I do find kids want to talk to each other about it, and they do their own conferencing together. But again, that comes through intrinsic motivation. Some kids do, other kids work solitary, other kids just want to work with me. But again, it's still something to think about, but at least we have 2 of the ideas, WhatsApp and the Zoom classrooms.
And we have some people jumping into that they really like the Talking Points app as a safe place for English learners and their parents to communicate with you. So I've actually heard that app is becoming very popular, and if you haven't heard of it, you should definitely check it out. So I have one more question just for the sake of time, and this one actually came in from somebody when they registered. So this was before you delivered the content, but I do think it's an interesting question. What is your opinion on digital journal? Earlier you talked about having students journal, but what about a digital journal shared between individual students and a teacher as a means for building community? And when I think about what you said in your presentation about having students just journal just for themselves, is there space to have a digital journal between teacher and student as a way to build relationships and work in some of that writing practice as well? What do you think of that?
Yes, and I do want to clarify that a digital journal is great. I also have students who don't do digital journals. They do their own picture PowerPoints, or they use technology, and they send me their Google Slides, and that's how they express themselves. Other students express them through each slide is one of their paintings, and they express how they feel about it. And then I finally got them to speak on the slide. We went into PowerPoint, and they spoke over the slide. So they did oral video logging, if you will, vlogging, and that was acceptable. And then they did the writing separately, because we must differentiate on what the children are comfortable with, especially when they're dealing with their own emotions. But as far as when you work with your student, brick and mortar, it was weekly. I would actually take certain journals home. I wouldn't take them all because I had 16 to 22 kids, and I wouldn't take them all home. And I would just, every other kid, I would take care of it, and I'd work with it, and I had a specific schedule. And that was wonderful, because all I did on the side, I was read it, and I would just make little comments. I wouldn't correct anything. I wouldn't do anything. If it's in heritage language and we don't have the ability to understand it, well, to be honest with you, now that you have Microsoft, I use the Microsoft Translator. So if the kids do want to type it, I can actually use it, because all I have to do is take a picture of it and I get the gist of what they're trying to say. I do have community members who do with the students and the parents, they get together, but I think it's private between a child. They should do one just for them. But if they wanted to work on their English and journal with me, they're more than welcome to actually either translate themselves, or they just work on it through journaling in English. But I want to give them the option to privately bring their words together for themselves, because that is truly SEL. That's the self-awareness of writing to yourself. That's yours, baby. That's yours. We have a lot of kids that don't do Dear Diaries anymore. And I think it would be wonderful for them to have something for themselves. But yes, digital, go for it, and have that conference as well. And if you want to talk about that more, I have some phenomenal ideas, but I know that we're pressed for time.
Thank you so much, Dorina, for answering those questions. And everybody who's watching, you know we like to keep our webinars not short. We want to give you a good amount of content, but we don't want to keep you too long. I know there are a lot of other questions that are coming in. As you know, we answer these questions offline. You know where to find Dorina and Saddleback. And if you have a question that wasn't answered, we will get to you, as we always do. We want to thank you for joining us. This is where you can find Saddleback on all the different social media platforms. You can also find us at our website, sdlback.com, if you wanted to have a look at some of our book offerings. Email contact@sdlback, and of course, please follow us and reach out to us on Twitter. Same thing with Dorina as well, so we can continue the conversation. And we want to say thank you so much to Dorina, and thank you to everybody who joined us today. And stay tuned for the summer webinar schedule, and we will see you back here in a couple of weeks. Thanks, Dorina. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Have a good one.